We're ready for our pasta course, and here from Del Rio are Chef Holly Warner and her husband Mac. Now tell us the name of your restaurant, Holly.
Avanti Italian Restaurant. We're located at 600 East 12th in Del Rio, Texas.
Okay, good. Well, tell us now a little bit about your culinary background.
I'm mostly self-taught, Pat. My parents are both very good cooks, and I grew up cooking.
Okay.
Mac and I we both cook a lot together, and
That's fun.
we traveled a lot when we were stationed overseas in Germany, and I studied in France at a cooking school in the Loire Valley, and then in Verona and Italy. We studied a lot in Italy too. Everywhere we went, we'd get recipes on napkins and everything like that. It was great fun.
That's great. Well, obviously you must love Italian food, because I'm fascinated by the fact that you came home and you opened an Italian restaurant on the border between Texas and Mexico. That's really an unusual restaurant there, I bet.
We felt there was a need for a different ethnic restaurant other than Mexican food. There's wonderful Mexican food restaurants in America, but there wasn't an Italian restaurant. And since that was our passion, that's what we really wanted to do.
Yeah. You're the chef. Now tell us, Mac, what you do.
Well, I've been always making pasta and breads for about probably the last 10 or 15 years. And so I've got where I can do the focaccia bread, but I've trained the guys in the back to do all the pastas and the breads now, so I can just go back there and make sure it's done right.
You're kind of overseeing.
I'm mainly in the front now, greeting.
Great.
We have 3 cooks. We have 3 cooks.
So you're covered. That sounds good. Now we actually have 2 Italian first courses here today, both the risotto and the pasta, right?
The pasta puttanesca.
Now tell us a little bit about risotto.
Okay, risotto is an Italian short grain rice that's grown in the Po River Valley. Unlike American rice, it has the capability to absorb a great deal of liquid and still remain firm or al dente. So it's wonderful. It's a wonderful creamy rice dish. Unlike American rice, which is usually fluffy, risotto is a creamy dish.
And now tell us just quickly about your pasta dish too. That's a fascinating
one. The puttanesca is originated with the ladies of the night in Rome, and legend has it that it incorporates everything in an Italian kitchen, and unlike most Southern sauces that cook for a long time, it's ready to go.
Quickie.
And there you go.
That's great.
In 30 minutes. And so the ladies of the night could eat it between their...
Gotcha. That's super. That's great. These 2 very capable chefs are ready with our risotto and pasta puttanesca.
The first dish we're going to prepare is mushroom risotto. And what Mac is sauteing here are the onions and the reconstituted dried porcini mushrooms, a little bit of garlic, and olive oil. So we want to saute that until your onions are translucent and the porcinis have got the flavor from the garlic and the onions and the olive oil. To that, we're going to add 1 pound of fresh button mushrooms that we've washed and sliced. And we'll saute those until they're wilted, and then we'll set those aside. The mushrooms have absorbed all the oil, so they're cooking nicely. They smell heavenly. Now while those continue to cook just a little bit, we'll heat our stock pot with a 1/4 cup of olive oil. And you want your oil to be hot when you pour in your arborio rice so it won't stick. So that feels hot enough, Max. So pour in your arborio rice. Now, arborio rice is a short grain Italian rice that's grown in the Po River Valley. It, unlike American rice, it has the capability to absorb great quantities of liquid and still remain al dente or firm to the bite. So to make risotto, you really need to buy the arborio rice. You can just pour it all in. You want to pour all your rice in, and then you want to coat every kernel with the olive oil to sort of toast it, and then it'll start releasing the starch. And stir that up real good. In the pot behind the rice, we have 7 cups of beef stock, and to this we've also added the liquid from the dried porcini mushrooms that we reconstituted. And you would have like 1 ounce of dried porcini mushrooms and pour hot water over them and let them stand for about 45 minutes. Drain them, reserving the liquid, and add that reserved liquid into your stock pot. So that'll give a lot of the earthy flavor from the porcinis into the rice dish. So it is at a simmer, and the arborio rice is nicely toasted and coated evenly with olive oil. And what Mac will do is he'll start adding the stock half a cup at a time, stirring constantly until each half a cup is absorbed into the rice, and then he'll add another cup. And that's going to produce the creaminess that risotto is known for. The mushrooms are perfect, so I'll turn those on. Okay, the risotto is just about done right now, so we're going to add the mushroom mixture. Excuse me. And that's the porcinis, the onions, the garlic, and the button mushrooms that we sauteed. So we'll give those a quick little stir. I'll put this back here. Let's add the fresh parsley right now. And we have a little cream. Keep stirring. And then we'll add a little bit of Parmesan cheese just right before we dish it out and stir that in. It's like fresh pasta. It's made to be eaten right away. And there's our risotto.
And now, Chef Holly Warner prepares ingredients for the pasta puttanesca.
We have half a cup of olive oil, and it's hot in our pan. And to this, we're going to add 12 cloves of garlic that we've minced. Or if you had a garlic press, you could press it, or you could slice it, just whichever you prefer. Stir that around. Being careful not to burn the garlic, because it'll get a bitter taste. Now we're going to add approximately 4 pounds of Italian plum tomatoes that we have chopped roughly. And we're going to get those sauteed around until they start wilting a little bit and rendering their juice. Now we're ready to add our other ingredients. I'm going to start out with the green olives. Black olives. And I have capers. Capers non-parallel, which means non-paralleled. We also have some oregano. Let me give that a quick little stir. Put that all together. Okay, that's cooking down nicely. See, now I'm going to add the anchovies. And Americans seem to be so afraid of anchovies, but they add so much flavor to the dish. And if you didn't tell anybody that they were in here, they probably wouldn't know it. And so they're so fine, I just kind of smush them up in there. Stir those around a little bit. Let all those flavors meld together. And now I'm going to add some crushed red pepper flakes and just about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. And the crushed red pepper gives it a nice little bite. And you need, even though the anchovies are salty and the olives are salty, and you still need the salt to bring out the flavor of all the foods. Plus it'll help the tomatoes to render their juice. And I'm going to add just a smidgen of cracked black pepper. Parsley. You know, I put in dried oregano. I should have, a good way, if you had fresh oregano, that would be even better. It has so much more flavor. Of course, you would double the quantity if you're using a fresh herb. But also, if you want to freshen your dried herbs, you can chop them with parsley, with fresh parsley, and that will freshen the flavor a little bit. So that's all there is to the pasta puttanesca. See how quick it was? We just need to let it cook for about 15 minutes, and it will form its own little sauce. It'll be chunky. You want it chunky. It's a nice chunky sauce. That's why I like to serve it with a thicker ribbon pasta like fettuccine. Now we'll get ready to cook the pasta. We have fresh fettuccine that we made at the restaurant. And it should only take about 3 minutes to cook. I salted the water after it came to a boil. I'm not putting any oil in the water. Some people like to put oil in their pasta water. I generally don't anymore. I used to, but I found that when you oil the water, the pasta tends to get a little slippery, and your sauce has a hard time clinging to your pasta. And you want your sauce to soak into your pasta. So we'll let that cook for about 3 minutes, 3-4 minutes till it's al dente. And we'll drain it and toss it with our puttanesca sauce. Okay, our pasta's done now, and we'll put it in our bowl, draining it briefly. Okay, now we're gonna toss it with our sauce, and then we'll sprinkle it with some fresh grated Parmigiano-Reggiano cheese. And there's the dish. We just love the puttanesca sauce so much that I said, well, let's put it on a pizza crust. And instead of using mozzarella cheese, I like to use Parmigiano-Reggiano and Romano cheese, because it's such a strong sauce, a lusty sauce, that you need a strong cheese. And mozzarella just doesn't have, it doesn't have much flavor. And then now we'll put the Parmesan cheese on, a good amount, because your sauce has a lot of liquid and your Parmesan cheese is dry, so it can absorb some of that.
If your pizza crust is pre-cooked for several minutes before adding the toppings, the final baking time is just 5 minutes for pizza puttanesca.